All right, term 2, week 2, January 18th through the 23rd. Getting right into it, start out with Lou's class on Monday, and we went into the molding again. And this week I was still with Aubrey. Now Aubrey has had a little bit more difficulty getting me up off of the ground than I have getting her up off of the ground, and I think I figured out why that is. Aubrey and I get up off of the ground very different ways. She's much lighter than me, much lighter on her feet, so she doesn't have to anchor herself as much. She'll just give herself a little push and get up off of the ground. Whereas me, I have to anchor and then press and then move in a certain way in order to get myself off of the ground. And she doesn't understand that. She doesn't understand how to get my weight moved in order to have me move into place. So it's taking her a little bit more time to figure that out than it took me to figure out how to get her up off of the ground, because I'm getting her up off of the ground in my way, which is easier to get somebody off of the ground regardless of how little they are than to just try and get them to use their own body weight to push themselves up, if that makes sense. So last week she got me all the way down to the ground and then all the way back up. I didn't get to do anything to her. But this week, I got her all the way down, all the way back up, and then she started on the second phase of it, which is having to turn my head to look at where she wants me to move, and then taking her two hands and going around the outside of whatever it is, so my arm here or whatever, and then moving it to where she wants it to go. Didn't get to get up off of the ground this time, and I also haven't had the chance to get her down or up doing that method yet. But I think I will be able to. Then we moved into Keith's class, and he wasn't in this week, so we started discussing what we did last week, which was the pressing. And while we're pressing into the walls and on the ground and things like that, everybody else is having these experiences where they're like, oh, I feel trapped, or I feel like I'm alone, I'm in a different room, I'm trying to break through the door, and the other person on the other side isn't letting me, and I'm like, I don't get that. It's not doing that for me. It's not giving me an experience like that. So I don't quite understand exactly what the point of that class was, but everybody else except for myself in September did. They all got experiences out of it. So, I mean, if it gets them something, that's awesome, but it didn't do anything for me. We're going to be doing more exercises similar to that one in his class, and other people have said that the ones that we have planned might work out a little bit better for us, those two of us that didn't get anything out of the pressing experience. Moving into Phillida's class, we spoke our scenes in RP for Phillida. She actually wanted us to read them, but I forgot my script at home because I didn't think that I would need it for her class. I thought it was just going to be something I would need to do in Alex's class. Won't be making that mistake again, obviously. But I had it memorized well enough that I could just do it off the top of my head. I've also created a voice for the character that I perform in Alex's class, but I'm not using that voice in RP classes. And I'll give you an example of it. In Alex's class, I make the character much more prim and proper. He's kind of nasally, and the only reason I know that is because when I close my nose, all of a sudden I change my voice with the same character. But I'll give you an example. I thank you. In premise, then, I covenant that your acquaintance be general, that you admit no sworn confidant. So that's a good example there. And then in RP, the way I do it is just using my voice, but using British dialect. Again, here's an example. I thank you. In premise, then, I covenant that your acquaintance be general, that you admit no sworn confidant. I can hear Alex yelling at me right now, going, Zach, that was not correct RP. So sorry, Alex, if I messed anything up in there. After Philo's class, we moved into Roger's, and we started working on our short sword again. And what he wants us to do this week is we're doing the same thing that we've been doing all throughout last semester and this semester with, we point the sword, somebody steps back, we advance, they block it. But he wants us to quicken everything up. So when I point the sword, my partner should be moving back as I'm pointing it. And then as they move back, then I step forward, then they block. And it needs to be much quicker instead of I point, they step back, I step forward, they block. It should be point, step, step, block. Should be that quick, you know. And then we moved into Alex's workbook class, and we discussed Love for Love and Hamlet, which was interesting to hear other people's perspectives. I didn't think some people did as well as other people think that they did in both shows, really. And other people think that people that I liked didn't do so well. So I don't know. Maybe my tastes are still bad, I guess. But yeah, there were some people that I liked better than others, and other people that I didn't like so much. And it seems like it wasn't a general consensus, at least from my point of view. And then we started talking about theories and technique and energy in the class. And I'm not going to lie, I was having kind of a hard time focusing during this because when we start talking about these things, all of a sudden I started thinking about my past experiences in theater. There are several plays that I've been in that I gave amazing performances on. I mean, obviously I have some that not so much, but there's several of them that I am so proud of what I have done. And I am not proud of what I did in As You Like It at all, to be honest with you, especially after receiving my marks. And so I was thinking about, why didn't I do that for As You Like It? Why am I not doing it right now? Why can't I just relax and do these things that I know I can do? And then I also had this question, why am I afraid of everybody here hating me? And it bothered me. It bothered me a lot. I just kind of just now came up with the answers to them. Why can't I be as good here as I was in the past? Well, the answer to that is I wasn't relaxing. Why can't I just relax and just do what I know that I can do? Well, I'm going to. And I think I did throughout the rest of last week. And then the final question is, why am I so afraid of everybody here hating me? Well, the answer to that one is I'm not anymore. I'm tired of being afraid of that. If people want to hate me, if people want to think that I'm the worst actor imaginable here, if they think that I don't belong here, who the hell cares? I'm not going to care anymore. I don't need anybody in this group's approval to be who I am and do what I want to do. If they all decide to hate me, then they decide to hate me. I'm not going to be afraid of it anymore. And I'm going to relax and I'm going to have fun. Being so afraid to do these things that I do and be myself, it was holding me back, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to be held back. I guess that's my new philosophy for this term. Don't be afraid anymore. Don't hold anything back. That being said, moved into Tuesday. Went into Lou's class bright and early in the morning. Rachel and Emily presented their part of the restoration, which is the women's costumes. This time it was really difficult for me to focus on the presentation, and not because they were boring, or even for the same reasons that I was having difficulty focusing in Alex's class. I was having difficulty focusing on this presentation because of how flat out exhausted I was. Both Sunday night leading until Monday, and then Monday night leading until Tuesday, I was having the worst time sleeping. After Lou's class, we had a 2-hour break. I came back to the flat and tried to sleep. I was not able to get to sleep during that time. I messaged the group and let them know that I wasn't going to be in Colin's class. I slept during his class and then showed up for Rob next, and I felt so much better. So much better. I definitely needed that extra hour or so of sleep. Speaking of Rob's class, I didn't get to sing. 3 or 4 other people in the group sang. And that's okay. I didn't really want to, considering how exhausted I was before that and earlier in the day. I just kind of wanted to sit there and veg out and let everything else happen around me. But then we moved into Philoda's second class for the week. We had Philoda twice this week because we had Francoise twice the first week, so we kind of switched things around. I believe next week we'll go to the normal schedule of Philoda once, Francoise once. And then Philoda gave us a sheet of paper that had a whole bunch of words in it that were all different vowel sounding than American dialect. And we went through the entire list of words, trying to do them in dialect. I think that'll be helpful. I'm really good with my A's, so like Ulbri or Ulful. I'm pretty decent with those. And then my Oo's, so good book. Pretty decent at that. But there's a few of them in there that I need to work on a little bit. After Philoda's class, we went back to Rob, and we had our ensemble singing. And he gave us this waltz from a show called Me and My Girl, which I'd never even heard of. The style was not really barbershop quartet, but that general era of American history, kind of. I've never sang anything even remotely close to it. I think that the closest would probably be something from Hello Dolly, and even that didn't sound anything like it. To give you an example of it, the beginning of the movie Up has a song that's very similar. In fact, it reminded me a lot of Up. But I think it was a combination of the fact that I've never sang anything from that time period, and also I didn't have anybody close to me singing my part with me. It was me and Madison doing the bass section, which surprised me that Madison is able to do it, but she was. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we're both singing the bass section, and she was having almost as much problems as I was, so I guess I don't feel too horrible about it, knowing that... Is that horrible of me? Thinking that because another person failed at it too, that makes it okay for me fail? I don't know. Morality 101. Moving into Wednesday, this is where the week really started to pick up. Went into Simon's class for our research methodology, and we had an entire class of asking questions. Simon wanted us to write down every single question that we had throughout the entire class, whether it had anything to do with the project or not. And then just continue to ask questions, and then discuss, like, maybe possible answers to those questions. Get some answers from him, some answers from other people, to help us kind of get an idea on what we want to do for our project. And I remember last week I was talking about how I wanted to do something like how an actor prepares for sci-fi, and I think I figured out how to refine this down better. I came up with what's the difference between how an actor prepares for American sci-fi and how an actor prepares for British sci-fi. So on the British side, you have your Doctor Who. On the American side, you have Star Trek. And then Emily came up with the idea of breaking it down even farther to what are the differences in an American sci-fi comedy compared to a British sci-fi comedy and how that relates to the actor. I don't know that I'm going to go that route, but we'll see. We'll see what I can start finding here pretty soon. After Simon's class, we moved into Alex, and we started out with like an hour-long conversation about the Oscars, which I'm so sorry to say this, but it seemed like wasting time to me. There were so many other things that we could have been doing during that time. I get that the Oscars are kind of a controversial subject right now because of there not being an African American up for a nomination for the second year in a row. And then to top that off, all the African American women who have won were all for really like abusive roles and horrible mothers and things like that. So yeah, it's great to have the conversation, but I personally don't like that we had it during class time and it took an entire hour. I'm sure there's other people that disagree with me. I mean, they made that perfectly obvious last semester, but I don't like it. I don't like that it took up an hour of our class time that we could have been using for other things. That being said, we did still get some stuff done. After the Oscar conversation, we went to do this exercise where Alex put a bottle in the middle of our circled group and then told us each individually to close our eyes, walk over to the bottle, and pick it up. It was kind of funny, actually. Aubrey closes her eyes, walks over, picks it up, no problem, without being asked to. He's explaining what we're going to do, and then she just does it. And then she does it twice. And it was the confidence that allowed her to do it. And so then we go around the circle, and everybody gets their shot. There was a few of us that fumbled with it a couple of times, but eventually everybody picked it up at least once. I think this was a really important exercise for me. This showed me all you need to be able to do something, anything, even something that you don't think you should be able to do, is the confidence to do it. Aubrey walked over with confidence. Yeah, I can do this. Picked it up. Boom. It was done. When it finally came to be my turn, I was the last person to go. I walked over to it, bent down, would go to grab it, and would miss by just a few inches every time. Eventually, I got it spot on. And then I was finding it kind of funny that I had this idea in my head that I would just walk over to it, grab it, pick it up, throw it over to Alex, and it would be done. And when I went to do that, to show everybody what I meant, I did it. So I think it's pretty definitive that it's just confidence. That's all it is. You need the confidence to be able to do it. And that goes for acting. If you're going to do something, have the confidence to do it, and you'll do it. Period. So that being said, we finally moved into performing our scenes. Maddie and I were the first to go. And I think we gave it a hell of a run. Alex gave us some nice notes, some things that we need to work on, a lot of dialect stuff. Madison and I need to connect with each other a little bit more because we did a great job of connecting with the audience. The audience obviously felt like they were a part of the show, but we didn't really connect with each other, so people didn't get the relationship between the two of us. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of how Wednesday turned out for us. Then we moved into Chris Garner's class, and we finished reading the play all the way through. And in between reading some of the scenes, we also read some passages from the books that Chris has brought into the class. Gives us a lot more insight into the time period. So that brings us into Thursday. And Thursday we walk in, and one of the first things that we do is he gives us our casting for the show, which was really cool. I get two characters. I get the characters of Squire Woodby and Sir Roger Marwood. Sir Roger Marwood is a good friend to Lovewell, and he kind of helps Lovewell get pushed into this love situation that he's in, and he also helps out the person that Lovewell loves in sort of tricking Lovewell into proving his constancy. And then the other character, Squire Woodby, is kind of the bad guy of the play, although he has absolutely nothing to do with the Lovewell storyline. He has his own sort of storyline where he's trying to cheat on his own wife with another married woman who owns a bar. Everybody could think that maybe just the married woman would say no, but if she says no, then he blackmails her and ruins her reputation. So she comes up with this idea to prevent him from sleeping with her and ruin his reputation at the same time while proving her own reputation is still intact. So yeah, my character's definitely the bad guy. And so after we got our casting, Chris had us go through the play again, and we read it basically twice. Once in our own words and once in the words that were actually written on the page. And so we would go through and we would do scene 1, and we would read it in our own words, and then we would go back and do it in the words of the character. I have to say, that helped out a lot. It actually finally made the show funny for me. I mean, I thought it was interesting always, and I definitely liked the devil scene and the bathtub scene, but then we finally got to hear how just the individual lines can be funny and how the writing can be funny. We came up with this idea that we're going to be doing the show very meta even. And what we mean by that is we're looking inward into the show and going, this is what the time was. It's making fun of that time, as well as making fun of the shows from that time and itself. You cannot take this show seriously. I don't think the writer did, whoever she is. So that pretty much took the full 8 hours reading through the play like that. I mean, we also read some more passages from the books that Chris had brought in, but that took most of the day. Moving us into Friday, again had Chris class, and we started blocking the devil scene. So Squire Woodby gets pushed into this room where he's still in a wet lady's outfit covered in feathers. And as he gets in there, he sees the devil, who's played by Madison. And the devil comes up with this rhyme about how he's screwing everything up, basically, and being a horrible person. And while that's happening, all of the little devil demons, I guess, kind of swarm around him, and they torture him and torment him, push him this way and that way, and then they pick him up and take him off stage. And this is supposed to humiliate him and make him want to leave the woman alone. And that was a lot of fun to block. I'm really enjoying this character. I'm really enjoying this show. That scene is going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to show it off to everybody. After we blocked the devil scene, we started working on Ariadne's opening preface scene. And again, we came up with this idea that the show would be like it wasn't quite finished when we started it. And so when people are going to be coming into the room, we'll be kind of standing around in the middle of the room talking to each other in our normal voices. And as soon as they come in, then we try and jump into character or get off stage as quickly as we can. And then Ariadne, the writer, comes on stage, gives her preface about it, explains why she did what she did. And there's jokes that we've already thrown into this scene, and people are trying new things. And so I think it's also going to be a very funny scene. And then next week we're going to start blocking Act 1. After Chris's class, we moved into Simon's, and we got to pick our prologue or epilogue. And then we started working on those. I picked one I like a lot because it talks directly to the audience, and it says, we're actors, we're writers, we're artists. Everything that you people do, we're writing about, we're painting, we're drawing. So everything that you see on this stage is a representation of who you are and what you have done in society. I love that. So that's the type of monologue I'm going to be doing in Simon's class. And finally moved into Carrie's class, and again I didn't get to sing because I sang last week, but I did, however, find my second song. So the first one is from the Mikado, Our Great Mikado Virtuous Man. The second one is going to be from Sweeney Todd, and it's going to be Epiphany. Even though it wasn't a British composer, it's still a show that's set in England, so I kind of technically say it's British tradition. But yeah, that was my week. So thanks for watching this video. See you next week.